Okay, so all right, let's go back a little ways. And all right, how to begin? It's like, part of me, I kind of want to, at some other time, like when I've had some sleep, I want to go back and I want to do these again, and we'll go into like more. I'll start talking into actually how the campaign got started and what went on, but like and maybe go into some of the characters' origin stories. But for the time being, let's just talk about how this game started, and why I'm frustrated about it. So this will be a like an episode 0 of the Metal Chronicles, and DM's corner, frustrated Dungeon Master's corner number 3. So again, Flutter Budgets is a character Auxentius created back in Great Lakes. The animal is a character I created back in Great Lakes too. And actually, truth be told, the animal was originally a character I played in Auxentius' Pathfinder game. And then I started running I started running City of the Spider Queen, but with more zombies in it. I started with like I started running a campaign at Great Lakes, and initially I think we just did a simple horror adventure, and then we did City of the Spider Queen after that. And in City of the Spider Queen, I added more zombies to it, just to kind of spicing things up. I kind of went more zombie apocalypse, and that's where Auxentius created Flutter Budgets, and he was introduced. And I took my animal character in that, and I put him in that setting, and he was just an NPC. He was like an NPC that represented me, basically. And because I wanted to play too, because that's always what fucking happens. I want to play, but no one wants. Yeah, you want to play D&D, but no one wants to actually do the hard part. No one wants the fucking Dungeon Master run it. So eventually, I cave. Fine, I'll do it, but I wanted to fucking play, and no one will fucking like run a game for me. It's fucking annoying. So yeah, I'll play my own fucking game because fuck you people, fuck you lazy fuckers. Put some fucking effort in, work, damn it, bitches. Anyway, so we played it there, and we saved the world from zombies, and the Drow, and Iray, Saran, and the evil goddess Karansali, and some great old ones from H.P. Lovecraft, which I threw in there for spice. And then I liked the character so much, I took him when I went to my ship. I played him in my friend Orlando's game there, and I then took him to a Dungeons and Dragons Adventure League game at Pensacon, and I played him in a couple sessions there. And so, like, essentially from that point on, what happened was there's the character of Lorala Dumian, who's a major character in my game, who's the animal's girlfriend, basically. And essentially what happened was she was a minor character. She's actually a character in the City of the Spider Queen module. And I think she's a character that can be an opponent. She can be someone you have to fight. You can be someone you befriend her, but basically the idea is she's a crazy half-drow who's a Fang of Loth, which means she has a little scarab pendant that has been enchanted by the goddess Loth, and it slowly starts turning the person who has it into a spider person. So she's basically turning into a spider person, and has like like a spider mandibles coming out of her lips and things like that. And she's her body's starting to develop a carapace, and she can get all sorts of crazy powers from this prestige class, but at the same time, it makes you into a spider person, and you look all freaky looking. So, the party encounters her. I think initially Porter encountered her actually, and she attacked Porter, but Porter's scared of shapeshift, so she didn't recognize him until next time he saw him. So, like, initially we when they encountered her, Flutter Budgets did what he always does. He saw her from a distance, and he goes up and he talks to her, and he makes a diplomacy check, and he actually successfully, he hit on her. And he did so well on his diplomacy check, she's like, oh, hey. And so she was all into him. And then that was kind of and really he wasn't really interested, but he just wanted to like kind of get his foot in the door to start getting information out of her. And he started learning that Iray Saran has, the cult of Karansali has been murdering the other Drow. Essentially, Aloth has fallen silent, and then the cult came out of nowhere, and they've been murdering the true followers of Loth and butchering them and skinning them and turning them into the Quith Marin, the horrible undead. And she saw a lot of her sisters die, and she wants vengeance against Iray Saran. So we said, well, we'll help you stop Iray. So it's like, all right, well, I'm in. So she joins the party at that point. And then stuff happens, adventures happen. The animal dies dies a couple times. She dies. We both get turned into revenants and become bad guys for a minute. We both get killed as revenants, and we get revived again, and as living characters again, and we go in for the final stretch, and we take on Iray Saran. So during the final fight with Iray, Iray has her weapon, the Claw of the Revenancer, which what it does is it can be used as a weapon, but specifically the point of it is, I believe, like 3 times per day you can bring a dead body back as a revenant. So what I had her do was she used an attack. She plunged her like claw into Lorala's chest and yanked out her heart, and killed her, and instantly turned her into a revenant. And she turns into a revenant, draws her sword, and starts attacking the party. So then my roommate at the time at Norfolk, who was Dennis, he was playing Lance Hardwood, who was the bard, this awesome bard based off a brutal legend. Like, yeah. So he summons a Celestial Lion. Celestial Lion rips out Iray's throat, kills Iray, and so Iray's dead, and effectively the game's over. There was one more little thing, just kind of for fluff, where Karansa Lee actually shows up. And so what I decided when that happened was, like, okay, the second Iray died, Lorala snaps out of it. And she's still a revenant, but she's got her own will again. And the way revenants work are that they're undead that have full sentience. They remember who they are. They have all their skills, all their powers, and whatnot. But they are completely and utterly motivated and dedicated to just hunting down and killing the person that killed them. And that's their entire motivation. Now, if for some reason they can't do that, for some reason the person evades them long enough, after 6 months, they disintegrate. So, yeah, so the campaign ended. We all went home and celebrated. She's undead now. She's got a hole in her chest, and it's like, okay, cover that up somehow. So we're celebrating. Everything's cool. I'm doing epilogues for all the characters. It's kind of for my own fun. It was like, I want to get my character laid. So I did like a diplomacy roll on my own to see if like who the animal hooks up with, and he wound up hooking up with Lorala. So she's part drow. Drow are hot. Spider Lady, that's freaky, but he's got a prestige class that turns him into a werewolf. So it's like, yeah, that's awesome, fucked up furry otherkin sex right there, like a wolf man and a spider woman. That's hot. That's hot. That's like cat boys hot, fox boys hot. Yeah, furries. Anyway, whatever. I'm weird. So they hook up, and but then of course and I think conveniently everyone that was super powerful and had powerful magic spells that could rectify this problem left town. It was basically, I never got around to resolving the fact that, oh yeah, she's still a revenant. She's only got 6 months left to live. And my character is now just hooked up with her and is now in a relationship with her and cares about her, and that's a problem. So when I was on my ship and I wanted to play the animal again, I thought, well, that's a really good reason to adventure. Is he wants to, he's going to go out and try to find help to resurrect her, or at least change her, make it so that change her in some way where she's not going to die in 6 months. She's not going to disintegrate. So that was the entire impetus for him adventuring. And in Orlando's campaign, I got sent back in time 30 years, and I wound up plane topping, and everything was crazy. So the initial impetus for us to play was we wanted to run a game, and I was talking about how he wanted to play Flutter Budgets again, I wanted to play Animal again, and it was like, okay, well, if I get together, if I hang out with the Flutter Budgets has to use that powerful magic he's got to help me save Lorala. And that was my entire thing, was my character's goal is to cure Lorala and being a revenant, and or at least make it so she won't die. Flutter Budgets was all Alexanius was all like, okay, well, all right, how about that sword you gave me, that weird sword? And it was so he had this sword that was given to him by this creepy dude who looked like a pharaoh. It's not a pharaoh. It's the Tharlahotep from H.P. Lovecraft. And the old ones were basically weighing in on what Karansali was doing, and they had a vested interest in how it would come about. So, and my premise being that I decided it would be kind of a cool idea if Karansali was, it turns out, actually worshipping one of the outer gods. What if a god started worshiping Cthulhu? Another god is has gone mad and is worshiping one of the great old ones. I thought it'd be a really cool idea. So my idea was Karansali was doing that. Karansali was actually worshiping Shib-Nuggurath. And so once everything was done, once the Revenant army had overrun the earth, it was happening in stages. First, zombies, horrible zombies were pouring out of the Underdark and, you know, becoming a zombie apocalypse. And then they're going to be followed by the army of Revenants, who are armed and smart, and with that, they're going to successfully overthrow and conquer the surface world, and, you know, and then burn the gods to the ground, burn Corella into the ground and whatnot. And then the third part was Caransley was going to use that as an opportunity to open the gateways to the Far Realms, and the old ones would inherit the Earth. So it was going to be like a destruction of the Earth in like several stages. So so that was the plan. So as naturally, Nyarlathotep had a vested interest in what was happening. So he gave Flutterbudgets a weird looking sword the first time they met, which looks like the Soul Edge from Soul Calibur. And like it's got a big, it's all organic looking and weird. It's got a big eye that's moving around on it. And the whole thing about it is it actually works like a finesse weapon. So, because again, Flutterbudgets is a dex heavy character, so it works for his dex modifier, and it deals 3d10 plus your strength modifier. But there's a catch. It deals 3d10 plus your strength modifier, but it also deals 2d6 sanity damage to you. And if it continues to do sanity damage to you and it drops you to 0, not only do you go crazy, but you turn into a supernatural creature, and you're in the service of Nyarlathotep. Well, eventually, like, while I was in between bases and I was at Damnick, I told Auxentius this. He really liked the idea, so he wanted to start off that way. So he's like, okay, it wanted to be like 1,000 years in the future. He wanted to be like a 20th level character. He's like a 20th level mage, and he's used the sword, and he's crazy now, and he's got the power of he's become a supernatural creature, and he works with Nyarlathotep. So that's how we started out. So so we did that. We ran that, and I calculated like how much that would be. It's like, okay, you got 20 class levels. You got 2 levels adjustment from the vampire for Pathfinder, and you got a 10 level adjustment from the supernatural creature from the Epic Level Handbook. That's level 32 character. So that's why we're epic level. That's why we're so high level, for starters. So we did that, and basically, and then I just discovered that the Apocalypse Stone was available for download on PDF. So it's like, I heard about Apocalypse Stone from Spoonie, and actually I heard about this part where, like, you know, the flesh golems are made up of the family members, and the whole dumplings where you're eating they're eating the dumplings made of people. And I was like, that was really fucked up. That's dark. That's kind of cool. I want to run that. So so the plan was we were going to run that, and he's like, when are we going to run it? I don't know. Sometime. We'll figure something out. So I'm not even done, like, rolling up my character yet. And we're hanging out on Discord. And again, I'm a fan of the old Channel Awesome guys, like back, like, you know, before a lot of this shit went down with them. And I'm a fan of Lord Cats, and I'm a fan of his, like, him and Spoonie's Dungeons and Dragons games that they did, like starting with Spoonie's game Death Clock and Wormwick and all that. And I really like the D&D games they do. So I'm listening to, like, one of Lord Cat's Wormwick games, and like and Auxentius decides to start just role playing as Flutterbudgets in it. And it's just like, okay, well, I'm there too. And so what's going on? Well, they're trying to solve a murder. This schoolmaster got murdered in some kind of ritual sacrifice, and they're talking to his widow right now. And then he just starts role playing that, oh, well, Flutterbudgets is there, and he's hanging out. So our first session was kind of this really cool, like, idea where we had to we were basically role playing. It was this weird kind of interactive role playing session where I'm having him actually listening on Twitch to the old D&D games, and like listen to certain parts, and then when he does something that deviates from where the adventure would go, I would change I would storytell it and change it. All right, well, then this happens and this happens. And so that's why we're in Wormwick. That's why this is in Chronicles of Wormwick. Like, that's why I'm ripping off Lord Cat's game, is because, well, that's how it started. And he specifically said, like, yeah, I want to revisit these characters at some point in time. So I made character sheets for them. Now he's complaining about the combat being too much. Anyway. Frustrated. So, so it gets to the point where they found the, so, like, I think the idea was, okay, the murder of Mr. Sheepsgood was conducted by 2 little demons that look like halflings, that work for Asmodeus. and Asmodeus is in league with Tiamat, and that's the whole thing. So they wind up getting to their little shack where they've got they got a little teleport stone on the ground that leads to the dungeon. So he teleports in, so he's in the dungeon that's like somewhere in your boat murdered, and there's the zombies in there, so he fights the zombies, he like reverse gravities the zombies in the ceiling, and then he runs in the animal. The animal, like, somehow through like his adventures, I think the last point we left off with him was in my blog was he fought a bunch of zombies and stopped helped stop some crazy halfling sorcerer named necromancer named Viplo with the help of the party at Pensacon. So, but he's still in the past and he's trying to find a way in the future. So he winds up in the world of Wormwick and he winds up like in this dungeon. He's fighting zombies, so they run into each other. And Animal goes like, "Oh, it's you!" It gives him a hug, and it's like, and Flutterbug just hasn't seen him for like 1,000 years. And Animal, for him, it was just like a couple months ago. But it's like for him, it's the past. It's like really weird. So they're all confused about it. So they start talking, and he tells him, "Is like, I need you to help me save Lorala." And Flutterbug is able to take us out. "I haven't seen you in 1,000 years. What are you doing here?" And they eventually, he reveals that it's like, "Oh, by the way, I work for the Thorlahotep now." And he basically explains it was like that creepy Egyptian guy that we saw turn into a tentacle thing that was hanging out in that other dimension where Karantzali was coming from. So like naturally the animal disapproves of him being in league with an evil creature, and then Flutterbug just makes the mistake of saying, "Oh, I'm gonna leave him eventually. I'm gonna resist him. It's all gonna be okay." Big mistake. So Nyarlathotep shows up, and like very casually has his trumpeters like do like blast their trumpets and like knocks the Wormwood characters away. And that was my excuse to get rid of the Wormwood characters because I didn't have character sheets for them and I didn't know how to deal with it. And it's like, yeah, you go away. And it was now the point of actually starting the actual module. So initially they suddenly found themselves in Unknown Kadath. For those of you who've read the Cthulhu mythos, it's like the dream quest of Unknown Kadath. Yeah, they were in the castle of Kadath. And he basically explains, like, "Look, you're not leaving me. I'm the boss here, and you have a job to do. This world is going to die. You're going to follow my instructions. You're going to go to the other side of the planet, and you're going to go to the Sleep Easy Inn, and you're going to stay there, and you're going to wait till a bard shows up, and you're going to listen to the bard's tale, and you're going to follow from there." So it's like, all right. So he's got to do. So poof, teleports on the other side of the planet. They wind up at the inn. They go there. Nyarlathotep actually gives them a little bit of leeway and says, "Hey, you can help you got a day. You got a day, so you can help your little friend. Help your little friend out. Help him achieve his goal. But you get back here. You better be back here in 2 days. You better listen to what that bard has to say." It's like, all right. So then he goes off by himself. Doesn't bring the animal along with him. He just like, and basically all I needed him to do was like, all right, I last saw Lorala, on this date in this city in Forgotten Realms. That's where I saw her. So we just need to go to Toril and go to that time period. If it's 1,000 years in the future, we need to find our way back to that time, and you can cast a spell on her, you can cure her, and you got to do that. So, like, that's what we got to do. So instead of actually taking me with him, where I could help him and I could actually pinpoint exactly where she's at, he just plane shifts without me. He plane shifts without me to Toril, and he crafts himself. I think he uses a wish spell to like craft himself a staff of time travel, which like he basically created, and the whole point of it is it deals like you can travel through time 3 times a day with it, and he decides to, and I quote, "go back in time to the moment she first died." Now, as I said before, Lorala's died before. Lorala died back in my original campaign in Great Lakes, and specifically the way she died the first time. At this point, she's died 3 times, and she's undead now. That's why. The first time she died at the hands of Valina Saran, who is one of the drow nieces of Iray Saran from City of the Spider Queen. So she and a couple of the other characters were down in the city of Zith Morcane, and they ran into her, and she hurled like a finger of death spell at her. Blast, hits her right in the chest, instantly kills her. And from there on, her body was harvested, and eventually she came back as a revenant. So he goes back there, and he sees some of the old party members that he had. He sees Porter's character, the Scion, who's floating there, blasting Kith Marin, and the Roper, which is another encounter you have in there, which he befriended, who's known as Granitos of Legend, which I did steal from Nightmare. The wall monster, Granitos of Legend. My name is not amusing. Good old British game show. So he sees her there, and the first thing he does, he just resurrects her right there. And I realized this is going to completely fuck up the game I'm trying to do. And mind you, this is the first session we've done since I've been back in Florida. So I realized this is going to completely fuck up not just my game, but the previous game. So I decided to, I kind of have it instantly course correct. He resurrects her, she stands up, she recognizes him, she still thinks he's hot from before. Oh, it's you, thank you. And then immediately gets stabbed in the back by one of the other drow. Dies again. So he just takes her body this time. And he takes her body, goes into his magnificent mansion. He resurrects her there. So now, he's resurrected this character early. Too early. When she was supposed to die, stay dead, and be resurrected at a different point. Which means he's gone back into the original campaign and changed the past. And has butt-fucked that campaign and how it turned out. And as I said before, my game plan for that version of City of the Spider Queen is that Iray's going to raise her... The zombies are... There's already an army of zombies that's overrunning the surface world. They are going to be followed by an army of revenants made up from the forces of Mare Midria and the war they had with Kurgoth's Hellspawn down there. And after that will all pave the way for the Great Old Ones to come. For Cthulhu and Azathoth to come and all that. That's what's going to happen. So, okay, so he's resurrected her, she's fine, everything's cool. Okay, but here's the first thing he does. The first thing he does is he decides to hit on her and sleep with her. Because, yeah, this is back in time. This is before the animal and her got together, and she doesn't even know that's going to happen. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, right? So he decides to actually just sleep with Lorala. So, yeah, I guess hoes before bros, buddy Oxenthius. Isn't that right? Yeah, okay, nice. So he seduces her, and they go off to his room, they start fooling around. And I, of course, have the Book of Exotic. I'm a dirty motherfucker. So, and I've got tons of books. So I've actually got tons of books on how to handle sex in RPGs. I've got the second edition fan-made Unlawful Guide to Carnal Knowledge. I've got the Book of Erotic Fantasies. I've got Encyclopedia Arcane Blue Magic, Nymphology Blue Magic. And I've also got the Black Tokyo books. I also have Fatal, though that's just... I have Fatal because it's funny in a hipster 4chan-y sort of way. It's like, it's Fatal. It's that shitty game. Yeah. So anyway, I've got tons of books of how to handle this. So I busted the Book of Erotic Fantasies. Okay, let's see how well you do. And so she's got a decent appearance score and a decent charisma, so he enjoys his time with her. However, as for him, he nat ones. He immediately nat ones, and so he is a 30-second man. Not even a minute man, 30-second man. So he immediately, shoots his wad, and then, all right, well, I want to try again. I'll do a fortitude save. He fucks up the fortitude save. Yeah, you pass out. He's out like a light. He wakes up the next morning, and he tries again to satisfy her, and he tries going down on her. He rolls again. This time he doesn't roll crit fails, but he rolls too low. He rolls under, the one you want to get for just, an okay sexual experience, everything came out okay. It was alright, is a 10. He rolls a 9. So it's so at this point she is not only, and also what he doesn't realize, I wind up actually kind of lowering her approval of him every time this happens. So after the one, it was well, it's okay, it's pats him on the shoulder. It happens to lots of guys. It's happened to lots of guys, yeah. So yeah, he just got bumped from helpful to friendly. He got put in the friend zone, and then after that, yeah, he's at indifferent now. So basically, he's down there, and she's like, and eventually she just pushes him off and leaves. So it's so she goes and down and eats breakfast, and then he's like, all right, are you going to take me home now, or are you taking me back to my own world, or what's going on? Has Iray been killed? Have you skinned her alive yet? And it was well, I'll take you his plan was to take her back to his time period 1,000 years ago. So what he does is they leave the mansion. They're back in the Zith Borkane and the Drow commoner quarter. There are zombies wandering around because I made it more like a zombie apocalypse, and there's a couple Drow hiding out, and everything's cool. And then he uses the time staff to go back to his time. He discovers the place is in a green mist, and things are just kind of eerie and weird. And then something's moving them out of the mist, and he gets closer, and it's a fucking deep one. It's a fucking deep one from Shadow over Innsmouth. It's the fish people with the big eyes. And it's like, rah! And like she sees that and takes sanity damage. Like, what the fuck is that? And it's like, whoa. So they fight it. They kill it. It's not that hard. And he takes her back and he opens up his mansion, which is outside time and space. And he's like, he opens it up and they go in and it's like, what the hell's that? I don't know. I'm gonna go out and see what's wrong. So he goes out and he does some exploring, and he discovers that the entire Underdark. And if he'd gone to the surface, he'd find this out too. And the entire world of Toril has now, 1,000 years after the events of City of the Spider Queen, is now a Lovecraftian hellscape. The Great Old Ones were brought free by Caran-Sali, and now overrun this world, and all of their progeny and ilk overrun it. All the old races are dead, eaten, or mad now. So he goes all the way to Merimidian and sees like crazy cultists like they're worshipping and stuff like that. And so he's like, what the fuck's going on? So he tries to go back to the location where the portal was at. He goes back, and meanwhile, I just keep on rolling on shit from Call of Cthulhu D20 that he's running into. And then finally, he gets super unlucky. He runs into a store. He runs into Hastur the Unspeakable. And he looks at Hastur, and he takes sanity damage. Sanity drops to -10. Now, his sanity had already been dropped to 0 previously. And it had gone back up. When it went to 0 initially, in addition to becoming a pseudonatural creature, he also gained an insanity. His insanity was thalassophobia. Thalassophobia, I believe, is the fear of the sea. So he's afraid of the ocean, and probably because he knows what's in the ocean. Cthulhu. So he takes one look at his store, and his sanity slips even further. He hits -10. He's now permanently insane, at least according to Call of Cthulhu. And he gains a new insanity. That new insanity is dependent personality disorder. He cannot make any decisions on other people. And Hastur looks at him and starts floating over in his direction. This big giant wraith of yellow starts floating over to him. So he's like, I can't handle this. He opens up the portal at Mage's Magnificent Mansion. He goes in there. There's he's back inside his castle. He's got a lot of followers. He's got a lot of his thing is he took leadership early on, and after the first adventure we ran, which was from Heroes of Horror, to Grandmother's house we go. After he rescued him and the party rescued a bunch of kids who were being abducted by a green hag and a gray jester, known as Grandma and Uncle Chortle. He wound up winning the respect and friendship of a lot of the older brothers and sisters of those kids, who I decided were kind of like gothed out, sort of scene kids, and one of them was Bella Swan. I called her Kristen after Kristen Stewart. Basically, she was he got his own Bella Swan, who's like following him around and please make me a vampire, Edward. Please make me a vampire. So that started happening, and he also you get a cohort with leadership. So I think a certain level. So he got one. The most competent of them was a young man, named David, who was leveled up as a fighter. And I think David, the whole shtick to his mansion is the mansion is set in a certain way where time does not pass here. So these people can, his followers from 1,000 years ago are still alive. They just don't age while they're in here. So they're essentially immortal now, and he's gained more followers, and he has a big cult that doesn't exactly worships him, but follows him and reveres him as a hero, a great hero. And they don't necessarily know about his connection to Nyarlathotep. They just know that every now and then a weird pharaoh guy visits. So he goes in and he talks to David and he's like, David, I need you to help me make a decision, because he's and David doesn't understand what's going on. So what happened to you? What's going on? Is everything all right? It was I can't. Something happened. He kind of stutters for a little bit. I wait a couple of rounds. Wait about a minute. And after a minute, the entire castle starts shaking. Castle starts shaking, and these big, bony, skeletal hands are ripping the barrier of reality open, and there's Hastur on the other side, tearing the castle open to get to him. And he realizes it's going to happen, and they're all going to die. He casts Wish. You haven't noticed if you watch my games, Oxenius is way too dependent on Wish, but he casts Wish and wishes, I wish I didn't save Lorala. Everything fades to black. He's suddenly in a dark room. He's suddenly just surrounded in darkness, and before him is Hastur, taller than him, but not gigantic. And Hastur thanks him for what he's done by removing her from the timeline, by bringing her back too early. He gave them the old ones, 1,000 years of freedom on this world, 1,000 years of pleasure and madness and dancing, and eating and fighting, and true chaotic freedom in the world of Toril, and that's all thanks to him. And regardless of the fact that he's reset it, they will always remember it and never forget it. Nathar might be upset about what he did, as Nathar loves to watch worlds die, but Hastur is grateful, so grateful in fact. He touches his forehead and puts the yellow sun in his forehead. Thus, Flutterbud's motto is he's also the marked one now. So he comes out of it, and like he's back in the mansion, and everything's cool, and they're not dying, and they don't remember anything that happened, and he's like he basically just didn't resurrect Lorala. He did not do what he did, and so that never happened. So Lorala in the regular time period has no memory that they had sex, because that was a different version of her. That was a time displaced version of Lorala. This version has no idea. But much like Amy Pond when Rory died, whereas Amy Pond cried for a man that she loved, but had ceased to exist, and she didn't know why she was crying about him. Lorala just has some strange suspicion that Flutterbud just isn't very good in bed for some reason. She doesn't know where that comes from. She still thinks he's cute. He's got a cute butt. Got a cute butt for a vampire. So from there on. So that wasn't so much frustrating, but it's like fucking awesome. Like just like he basically gave me but like while it was happening, I'm like, what are you doing? Stop, no. Because of him, our first session, he basically made Days of Future Past the Cthulhu edition. It was fucking awesome. So then, like, all right, so now he's fucking crazy. He's crazy as a sack of hammers. He's like, he's freaking, he can't. He's like sitting there like huddled next to David, and was like, I don't know, I can't make decisions. He's like Captain Kirk. He's like the good side of Captain Kirk in that one episode where the good side of Kirk and the bad side of Kirk are separate. He's the good side of Kirk. It's like I don't know what should I do this? What should I? Oh no, of course he can't make decisions. So David and his followers trying to help him and whatnot, and he starts seeing shit. And so he introduced me to Jordan Under, and he showed me the My House episode where this big blue freaky Muppet is all like, oh, look at my house, and the house is tiny. I love my house, and like it starts drawing people into the extra dimensional space that is his house and eating them. He starts seeing that shit. He starts seeing that shit on the of the window to the outside. It's like looking at him. I like your house. He starts seeing that. All of a sudden, he hears laughter, and there's like an old man. I took the inspiration from Legion. So the Legion TV series. So like the old man, the old woman that David from Legion sees in the back of the room. They're just laughing. He starts seeing that, and they're not there. And it's like and I pulled a little Jacob's ladder. Like he was like, oh, maybe things will get better. And he's like, dream on. And like he looks to where that came from. There's nothing there. It was like I had you just hear random crazy shit. So finally, like, all right, he's got clerics that are followers of his. So a couple of the clerics come in. It's like, all right, we gotta straighten this out. So the clerics show up. They cast like Greater Restoration on him, and they cast it on him twice. So like the first one negates the whole permanently insane thing. So it's like, okay, you can now be cured of insanities. But you got basically, I figured like that's how I'd handle that, Because I figured like, okay, with magic you could straighten out anything. I don't even a permanent insanity isn't impermanent if I have a way. So the first one makes it not permanent anymore. The second one gets rid of the fear of the inability, the dependency personality disorder. You get rid of that, and then you hit him a third time, and it restores his sanity to his sanity points to max. He's still thalassophobic. He still doesn't like the ocean, and he can still see the big blue guy. But so then after all that, he then leaves the mansion and goes back to the Sleep Easy Inn, where at this point it's like 10 o'clock at night, and the animal's in bed. And the animal like rolls over. Where the fuck did you go? Why did you just leave me? And he just like goes in his coffin and goes to bed. So yeah, So, like, the next day, the animal and him go downstairs and, like, look, dude, could you just go with me? I'll show you where I last saw her. Let's just go there and, like, we'll fix it. We'll go back in time. We'll make sure she doesn't, turn into, she doesn't die and all that, like do that. But now he's paranoid. Now, because of what I did, he's all terrified of, like, going back in time. And it's one of those things where this is, like a personal goal for my own character. I'm not going to fuck this up. I want my characters to succeed in his goal. He wants to, like, Lorala to be cured, and so they can live happily ever after. This is all, like, I'm begging him. The animal is just begging him. Let's just go back in time. We're running out of time. We got like one more day, and then you got to be here for this to see this bard. Let's go there. Let's go back in time. And, like, okay, so this is the second session. This is important. This is the second session. We're 10 minutes in. Just let's go and, like, let's just cure her so she'll be all right. And it's like, I don't know, I gotta think about it. It's like, ugh. So the animal gets pissed off and he storms outside and goes, like, kicks over an apple cart, and, like, he's pissed off because it's like he's finally found the one person who can help him, and, like, he just won't do it because he's being stubborn. So then Flutterbug just goes upstairs, and again, this guy is still too dependent on Wish, and this is how he's too dependent on Wish. This is the wish that he made this time. He goes up there, and it's like, I wish time would just stop so I'd have some time to think. And again, you're supposed to fuck with people with wish spells, and I'm like, roll a D100. He rolls a D100. He rolls like a 10. I'm like, okay, well, you've stopped time. You've stopped all time. You've stopped time for yourself. You are now stuck in a time-stuck world where you will stay until... you will go on for existence and eternal forever, where you are aware of everything. You are aware of the fact that you are stuck outside of time and space, and time will never move forward for you. Game over. 10 minutes into the second session, and we're looking at a game over screen. So I'm like, alright, roll up a new character and let me figure something out. So then I'm like, alright, so he starts working on a new character. And I'm like, all right, well, what am I, like, the animal's still here. What's the animal going to do when the animal goes upstairs? Well, the animal's going to see one of three things. The animal is either going to, and one of three things can happen here. Either the animal's going to go up there and, like, find him, like, standing stock still and not moving. And like, and try to figure out a way to fix that. Or, do you stop time? Like, the animal is, like, he's basically stuck in a single second for all eternity. So for the animal's not time stuck, so the animal's just going to move on past that second. So when the animal goes upstairs, he's going to see nothing up there. And just Flutterbug is just gone, erased from history forever. Or the third thing we could do is we could have a god show up. Have a god show up and bail him out. So I do, like, a roll on a die 3. I roll on that. A god bails him out. So I'm, all right, hold on. So I roll through all my many books, and I wind up stopping in the Book of Exalted Deeds. I land on Farinell, the consort of Morwell, the Queen of Stars. So he's got, like, time stop in there. So I figured, like, all right, time stop. Okay, you counter a spell by casting the same spell. I figured, like, okay, he could go. Farinell could show up at that location, cast time stop, bust him out of this. So he does. Farinell shows up, cast time stop, bust him out. The problem is we do a roll to see how long he was in there. He was in there for 10,000 years. He was stuck outside of time and space with nothing but his own thoughts for 10,000 years. So once again, he's at -10. He's permanently insane, and he now has 2 new insanities. Those insanities include he has selective amnesia. The selective amnesia in question being the 10,000 years he was outside of time and space. He conveniently doesn't remember that because he doesn't want to remember that. And the final thing is he's a voyeur now. He likes to watch people have sex. And he's playing it up. He's all like, and he's all shuddering and shaking and crazy. And so Farinell tries to explain to him. It's like, okay, well, look, my queen has discovered that something's going to happen to this world. Like, this world is indeed dying. Something bad's going to happen, and you might be the person, for whatever reason. You're kind of important, even though you're kind of working for the guy who's trying to destroy it. You're important, and I think there's she's seen the future a little bit. You might be the one person who can actually save things. So we need you stuck outside of time and space. But he sees, like, he's nutty as a sack of hammers, and, well, the book, pretty much everybody in the Book of Exalted Deeds is good. So Farinell's not just going to leave him. So Farinell's like, all right, you know what, I can help. So he has heal. Farinell has heal. But it's only once per day. So Farinell agrees, like, I'm going to stay with you, and I'm going to keep casting heal on you until I restore your mind. So he hits him with it the first time, and he basically, okay, you're no longer permanently insane, but he's still crazy. So he stays there in the inn. He gets a room. They wait, the next day the bard arrives. The bard in question, I decided, because I was just could have been any bard, but I figured, why not? I'll use another celebrity character, so to speak. So I used Garrett Keldeus, Skitch's character from Deathclock. So Garrett, in his many travels, has found his way to the world of Wormwick. He's lost contact with the Deathclock characters, and he still needs to warn Sarmanath about what's going on. But whatever, he's now traveling this world. He's planeswalking now, and he's recently heard this story about, or was put up to this story about the Castle of Peshkur, where allegedly there's it's a great it was a place made by the gods to test their strength and valor, and anyone who goes there and takes the precious stone from the top of it will succeed in the challenge and prove their worth. So he tells them that story, so they get to talk to him a little bit, and he eventually tells them that it's in the ocean, it's across the sea, and of course Flutterbudgets is like, no, I'm not going the ocean, ocean bad, blah 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 blah. So Farinell taps him on the forehead, cures him of his thalassophobia. So now the only insanities he have is he's a voyeur, and he's got selective amnesia of the past 10,000 years. So again, he's still not cured yet. So and now he knows what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to go find that island, and take that test, that challenge. So but they go to bed. Everybody goes to bed for the night, and Flutterbudgets is not. He's a vampire. He's still up, so he wants to see what's going on. So sure enough, he's a voyeur. So he does a search check. And search check to see if anybody's getting it on. He does find people getting it on. He finds a gangbang that's in process a couple of rooms down, where an orc and a human are just double penetrating this hot elf girl. So we get into full on fantasy porn here. So what does he do? What does Oxendius do? I'll tell you what Oxendius does. Oxendius goes into gaseous form and slips into the room and then goes in their closet and immediately starts to jerk off. That's what he does. And it's like, okay, you do that. Make a stealth check, make a hide check. So and mind you, he's the sneaky wizard. The sneaky wizard's good at sneaking and stealthiness. And and he was not stealthy this time. He nat 1'd again. He nat 1 in his stealth check. So what I opted was at the exact moment of the three people are climaxing. He starts climaxing, but it turns out he's a screamer. So while jerking off on the inside door of the closet, he makes a loud noise and alerts them all to what's going on. What? So they freak out and they grab weapons and they start opening the door. So he gaseous forms out, and so he gaseous forms out and goes back to the coffin and when he goes to bed, nothing happened. And they open the door to find jizz all over the closet wall, but not sure how it got there. So all right, so that was that should tell you the tone of my games of the derp therein. So the next day, the animal's like, okay, could you please just help me save Lorala now? Could you please do that? So he's still being a pain in the ass about it. Excuse me. He's still being a pain in the ass about it. He won't. He's afraid of affecting the timeline. So Farinell's like, all right, fuck this. I'll take him over there. So Farinell takes him tries to plane shift over, but finds it's the same time period that Flutterbudgets is. It's 1,000 years in the future. So there's no way to do it. So they finally talk Flutterbudgets into helping him out. They go to that world. They go to the city that he last saw him in. They use the time staff to go back to the exact moment that the animal left. The animal is literally boarding the ship to go out into the sea and find a cure for her. And Lorala's waving goodbye to him, and they're right behind her. And the moment he's out of earshot, the animal taps her on the shoulder, like, ah! And it's like, what you were there? What the fuck? And it's like, honey, it's me. It's a long story. It's like, I found the guy that can help. I found Flutterbudgets. It's like, what are you doing here? And it's like, so he basically, in short, explains that, he went out to go find a cure for her, and he's actually been gone for 6 months, and he had to travel back in time to find her. But he found the cure. He found Flutterbudgets. Flutterbudgets can help. So Flutterbudgets ritually casts Wish, and he restores Lorala to life. Lorala is a living half-drow Fang of Loth once again. And the animal's like, give me some sugar, baby. And they start making out, and Flutterbudget immediately runs around the corner and starts jerking off. While looking at them in his cloak. And Farinell and the animal and Lorala are too engrossed in what they're doing to notice, but Farinell notices and sighs. So then we go back to his time period, because he says so, even though we have people we care about in this time period, but yeah, to hell with that, let's just go 1,000 years in the future where they're all dead. Okay, fine, whatever. We're wanderers anyway. So we go back to the present day, and we go back to Mage's Magnificent Mansion, and of course, the animal hasn't seen her in 6 months. So, they go off to a room, and they start getting it on. So they start fooling around. And of course, when Flutterbudget hears about that, he follows. He waits a little while, he opens the door, he sees them having sex. Again, as a berserk, one of the animal's powers, he turns into a werewolf. So, we're having full-on otherkin sex. He's in werewolf form, fucking her, and she's in her full she's got her spider legs out. It's and they're having they're having Klingon sex where they maul each other while they're doing it, and it's really disgusting and pervy and hentai and enjoy. And so so Flutterbudget is looking at them have sex, and then he calls for Kristen, the Bella Swan stand-in. Kristen goes yes, Flutterbudget, what was it? And he's like, okay, jerk me off, and I'll make you into a vampire. And so she instantly drops his pants and starts giving a hand job. And so our game has gone into full on wacky porno. She's jerking him off. Now, okay, so again, all right, make a stealth check. So he passed it, but Kristen's dumb level 1 commoner ass, she doesn't make her stealth check. So Lorala and Animal hear this. So okay, let's say they finished. But they finished, but they're what? So they get up, and so they're naked, and they open the door, and the animal's still a werewolf, and she's a spider. She's got her legs out, her big spider legs out. They open the door and see what's going on. It's what the fuck's going on here? And so they're shouting at him. He ignores us and just starts biting Kristen. He starts biting her and starts trying to turn her into a vampire and draining her constitution score. And we keep shouting at him what are you doing? What is the meaning of this? And then finally we kind of shoo him away, and he kind of drags her and into another room. He's still feeding on her, and mind you, this was in the middle of a hallway where people were walking by. Everybody could see this. All of his followers, including David, saw this and just shakes his head with disapproval. And Farinell didn't see it, but he heard about it. So he drags her into another room. He drops her to 0 constitution. He kills her, and he gives her some of his own blood, and he's officially sired her. And then he goes to sleep, waits a night. And the very next day, he hears a knock at his door, and then he opens up the door, and there's Farinell. Farinell bops him right in the face with a heal spell, and cures him of his voyeurism, and he's like, we will never speak of this again, and walks away. She just leaves. So, meanwhile, a couple hours later, Kristen wakes up, and she's a vampire now, and she's so excited to be a vampire, and so she finds a portal that leads to Forks, Oregon. She goes to Forks, Oregon, and she runs through Forks, Oregon with a super fast vampire speed, and she starts tackling mountain lions and snapping them in half. Just like Bella. And mind you, she's running around yes, tackle, snap. Just snapping giant cats. Snapping giant cats left and right. So now mind you, I have no love for Bella from Twilight, so those mountain lions are batting her in the head left and right as much as they can, so she's getting a couple contusions here and there. So eventually she comes back, so another the animal and Lorala kind of have a little talk with Flutterbudget. It's okay, look, we talked with Farinell. We understand you were crazy, and you're not crazy anymore. Please don't do that again. And it's okay, we're not going to hold it against you. So the next day, Farinell approaches him and says, well, as far as I can tell, you're still technically insane, but the only insanity you have left is you are choosing to forget that the time that you were stuck outside of time for 10,000 years. And it's I would cure you, but I don't want to do that to you if that's not what you want. Would you like me to cure you? And he basically asks him, do you want me to cure you or not? And he says, no, he chooses not to remember that time. So it's all right, well then, I leave you then. Good luck to you. I must return to my lady and the court of the stars. Farewell and good luck to you, and I please hope that you do in fact save this world. So he leaves, and Flutterbudget has kind of a sit down with the animal and Lorala, and the animal's feeling is okay, look, I need to get you away from Ntharla Hotep. Ntharla Hotep is he's evil. He wants to destroy the world. He's using and manipulating you. We'll do this mission, whatever it is. We'll play along for now. But when we're done, I'm helping you break free from him. I will help you kill Natharlahotep. If I die or go insane, you've been a friend to me, and you've saved what is precious to me. You saved the woman I love. I'm going to help you. And Lorala, too, is like, yeah, I joined you because you were willing to help me get vengeance against Iray Saran and Karan Salih for what they did to my sisters. You helped me do that. You've resurrected me and saved my life. You have my sword. We're going to go. We're going to fight together. So they made a pact to go and resolve all this. And so, sure enough, as the rest of the campaign shows, they set out in the world, they finished the challenge, and it looks like the challenge might have been a setup, as of recently. So that's where we left off, and I hope he still is interested in playing this game. I hope he's not getting like too bored of it, or if he wants to finish it, it's like, all right, fine, let's finish it. We can finish it in one session, but I would like to finish it. I like where this is going. I like the story for what it is. So, but yeah, so Frustrated DM's Corner. So I single-handedly watched him create a dystopian Lovecraft future. I had him basically would essentially end the game like at that point because he went like permanently insane. That should have ended the game too. He then like stuck himself outside of time and space for 10,000 years, and then the game then he just starts spying on people and jerking off, watching them have sex. And yeah, there you go again. Brain switch with Porter. Porter's here saving the whole fucking universe, and you're jerking off. You're like spying on me and my girlfriend, like jerking off to us. So what the fuck's wrong with you, dude? So there you go. This is another episode of Frustrated DM's Corner. This is Dread Pirate signing off, and it's like damn it, I'm fucking frustrated. Ugh.